Hello. This video, let's see, is this on? Yep. Yep. Okay. This video is in response to the question that I got when I published the video on why I relocated to the UK. If you missed that video, I'll link it up here. Sometimes I don't even know when I'm saying I'll link it up here. Anyways, I'll link it up somewhere. And this question is, how did I get my job? And I also mentioned in the video that I would try and share how I got my job. And a number of people said they're either in the process of coming to the UK or relocating to the US. And they would like me to share a video on how I got my job. Because I said it was my first interview. I didn't meet all the requirements, but I still got the job. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey. I made some notes because I want to make sure I give you the full story. I don't want to miss out any important part because it's important that you have the full story so you can then use this information for your own, job search or for your own, job search. So I'm just going to quickly look through. Yeah, I'm there. Okay. So how did it all start? Like I mentioned in that old video, I moved to the UK December. I resumed school immediately. I think that was January. And I was still working in Nigeria at that time. I stopped working in Nigeria in April. And then the idea was that I should take some time to focus on my schooling. I was very particular about coming out with the extension, so I really wanted to put my effort into it. And I said to myself also that I don't want to do any work now because I wanted to make sure that whatever work I am going to do is going to be in my field, which is strategy or finance, because I have good experience in those two areas. And I know that I have a lot to give with respect to, those two areas. I can offer value in those two areas. So I wasn't actively looking for a job. I was saying that because we were going to finish school in the following year, January, which is January this year. So I just basically said from that April up until January, I will just focus on finishing my studies and all that. Of course, getting a job would provide that income, But again, we already managed our financial position in a way that even if I wasn't working, we would still be able to meet our needs. So we won't have a lot of luxury, if you know what I mean, but we will be okay. So I wasn't, desperately looking for a job. So I was on LinkedIn and I was just scrolling through jobs and all that. And I thought, if I get a job that allows me to do 20 hours, because what people would generally tell you is that you would have to do jobs that are not related to your field, other jobs, if you want to work for 20 hours. But if you want a good job, like job in your space, in your field, it would have to be, full time. Anyways, to cut the long story short, I was on LinkedIn and I was just looking and I thought, if I can get something, who knows, maybe I'll just see one of these jobs that will say 20 hours. I started looking, I searched by strategy, I searched by finance, and then I just came across this job. It was strategy and risk, and I was like, I can do this job. I read the, requirement, I can do this job. But then I got to a point where it says it has to be full-time, 37.5 hours per week. And I thought, I cannot do this because I will be flouting my visa rules. And I think also that as a student, you are not even allowed to do full time because they need you to still be, in school. And anyways, I read the requirement again and again, and I'm like, I can do all these things. I can do all these things. I couldn't look away. And then I applied. I'll tell you a story here. There is someone that, and yeah, I'm digressing, but you would learn from this information. Many years back, when I started my career in PZ Cousins in Nigeria, I had a colleague. She came in right after our own sets, our graduate trainee set came in. But we were more or less like, she wasn't part of the management trainee scheme, but we were more or less like peers. And she was in finance. She came from another company, actually. So she told me one day that, Debola, I'm going for an interview. And I said, oh, really? That's cool. And then she had just joined, I wasn't even sure at that time if she was confirmed. I cannot remember. Anyway, I said, oh, nice. Which company and all that? And then she told me, and I said, I saw it now. I saw this job, but they were asking for 7 years work experience, and I don't have 7 years work. She said, I don't have 7 years work experience. So I said, and you applied? She said, yeah. What's the worst that will happen? They won't select me. That's it. I saw it, but I didn't apply because I didn't meet all the criteria. They were asking. Every other thing checked okay, but because they were asking for 7 years work experience, and I didn't have that, I love the song this morning. I love you, son. Focus, Debola. Okay. I didn't have that 7 years, and I didn't apply. And then she applied for that job. She went for the interview. She passed the interview. She left. That thing left a message. The message is that you should not self-sabotage. What's the worst that can happen? I was fortunate to sit with the group CFO at a small meeting where she also said the same thing. This was when I was in Friesland, Campina. She organized she came to Nigeria and organized this small meeting where a couple of us attended. And she said, women generally, if we don't get 10 over 10 of all the requirements, we don't apply. We think we are not good enough. Men with 5 out of the 10, they will still go ahead and apply. That also left a message for me. Never self-sabotage. Don't disqualify yourself. Anyways, I brought all this into the game. I applied for this job. Immediately I applied, I saw a button that says contact the IRN manager. I'm always having problems with pronouncing IRN. Okay. Contact the IRN manager. So I sent him an email and I said, I have just applied for this job. I know that you mentioned that, I know it is mentioned on the requirement that it is a full-time job and I would have to do 37.5 hours, but I don't have 37.5 hours. I can only do 20 hours, except for when I'm on holidays. But I promise you, I can do this job in 20 hours. I know this job and I can do it in 20 hours and nothing will fall behind. And then I attached my testimonials from Dangote, where I had just left, because when I said I was leaving, I got a lot of positive testimonials. Debola is this, Debola is that. I did a screenshot of all those things, put it on Word documents. So I've always had that Word documents. All the things I basically did, she started this fantastic testimonials, from leaders of the company, and I was really from executives from the company. And for me, it was a brag sheet. I attached it and I sent it to him just so he knows what I am able to do within that 20 hours, that I can do it, Anyways, he responded to me and said, yeah, thank you for sharing this. I understand. And, the only challenge is that, with our role as strategy and performance and, of course, risk, you need to work with a lot of stakeholders. And we would have to work with the timing of the stakeholders. Basically, they will not work when I am. They will not work, when I am available. So I have to align my timing, which was very correct. You cannot, you would have to, you cannot run my role without that, stakeholder management, stakeholder engagement. So I said, I agree, I understand, and thank you. But again, I would be finishing and this was June, I think, June. I said, I will be finishing January next year, and I would be very much available to join at that time if you have a role, in your function. And we just ended it like that. Weeks after, I got a mail inviting me for an interview with the same company. And I was like, what's that? Did you not tell me? You don't want me? I have not, my status hasn't changed. I was even telling my husband, I said, he already told me that this is a full-time job. That why do I have to go for an interview again? My husband, being who he is, said, prepare for it. What do you lose? Nothing. Just prepare for it and go for it. I said, okay. So I prepared for the interview, and the way I prepare for interview, and I am not joking, you will think my life depends on it. Like the way I'm recording now to the camera, that's the way I'll be recording myself answering interview questions before the interview. That is how I run my interview. And by the way, I had on Real Life Reflections an interview, with an amazing guy, Sean, where he talked about how to land a job in the UK, how to attend interviews. I think I have a document too. If you're interested, if anybody is interested, you can just put it in the comment and I'll share it with you. But first, let me talk about the interview. The interview with Sean is eye-opening. I will link the video here. I'll put a link here. You should check it out. If you're in the UK and you have what we call an A job, which is anyhow job, and you want to move from this to a B job, which is a better job, or you have a B job, you want to move to a C job, which is your career job, or you have your career job, you want to move to a dream job, which is what we call the D job, you should watch that video. I'll link it here. You should watch it. This video spells out to you how this interview process in the UK is done. How Sean is fantastic. You should check out that video. How the interview is done, how you should prepare, basically how you should set up yourself for success if you really want that job. Anyways, I did this interview after I already gotten my job, but I know that in conversations with Sean, it's always coming to say you have to use the STAR model, you have to be able to defend all those things that you've put on your CV to say I did this, I did that. You have to be able to defend it. There is a way you structure your CV. One CV cannot be used for multiple applications. So for each job application you see, you have to craft again your CV to speak to that application and the requirements on that, for that job. Anyways, this is not a video about, how to structure your CV or all that, but this video from Sean will be very helpful. So I just wanted to put that. And then there is something my husband sent to me also about how to use the STAR model to answer questions in the UK. Very fantastic PowerPoint. If you want to, just put it in the comment and I will send it to you. I've been sending it to people. So if you want it, just let me know in the comment section and I would shoot it to you. If you DM me your email address, for example, I'll send it to you. Okay. Having said that, I went for this interview, prepared well for it, even though I was thinking in my mind that it was probably a mistake, that I probably won't get the job, but I didn't let that stop me. You know, I basically practiced until the hour of the interview. I should also mention, to be honest with you, experience does matter. If you're going for the job that you have experience in, it makes it a lot easier because then you have stories to tell, the things you've done and all that. They come in super handy when you're going for that interview. So I think that also matters. So when I finished the interview, it was a good interview. I thought I did okay. And then after the interview, I asked my normal question, the whole interview, ask your questions and all that. Then I asked him, when am I going to hear back from you? I honestly like asking that question because when I do interview, my mind is 100% there waiting for a response. So I asked him and he said, oh, this evening, we should come back to you by 5 this evening. I thought, amazing. If I don't hear back, that means I didn't pass the interview. So he said 5. When it was 4:30, I got a call on my phone because, of course, my phone number was on my CV when I applied. I got a call on the phone and it was him. And he said, hello, is that Ebola? Why didn't he come across? Oh, how did he put that question? Like, are you the one that cannot do full time? I said yes. He said, why didn't that come out during the interview? I said, you didn't ask. Abi? Which I be? I said you didn't ask. And I actually thought that you had a rethink, and that was why you invited me for the interview. He said, oh yeah. I just saw now. I think he was trying to send me an email about feedback from the session. And then he realized he had sent me an email before. And he said, I was going to send an email and I saw that we've exchanged emails before to mention that this role was a full-time role. I said, yeah. Then he said, yeah, that when I saw that you invited me for the interview, I thought you had a rethink. And then he said, okay, but you did not put on the email that you sent to me that you had already applied. I said, I did. On the email I sent to you, I said, I am writing this mail. I am following up on how did I even put that? I can't remember. I am writing this mail to follow up on my application and, something like that. And he said, oh, okay. He didn't sound very convinced, but he said, okay, that he would have to check and call me back. I said, okay. That he would call me back. I said, okay. Anyways, I ran downstairs. I went to tell my husband, I said, this was what happened. Blah, blah, blah. I think he called back that same evening and then he said, okay, I think the interview went very well. We interviewed a lot of smart people today, but you were top on the list. And we will have to figure out how this will work because this is a full-time role. And I could give you provisional, employment letter now, but I need to speak with HR. We need the person now and we need the person to be on full-time now. But again, you came tops, in the interview, and I will need to talk to HR to see how we would structure this. Guys, I was super happy. I was like, you know what? Even if this comes back to say, you cannot, we would have to go with the second best, I felt really happy hearing those words. Like, you came tops. We interviewed a lot of brilliant people today, super people today. You came tops. That was good to hear. Very good to hear. I went down, put my head on the ground and just kept on saying, Alhamdulillah, thank you, Lord. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. I was super, super excited. Anyways, it turned out that they do not see names when they are shortlisting. So my CV was there without my name. So my boss couldn't have figured it out that I was the one that sent the email to him. If that wasn't the case, it would have taken out my CV. It would say, oh no, she cannot work full time. But the way it works in the company, they shortlist without the name. One. The second one was, he was ready to put in all the efforts to get me in, so long as it's still within the HR rules. So he kept on keeping me informed at every point in time to say, this is what I'm discussing with HR. This is eventually, to cut the long story short, from June, I didn't resume until August 31st. Yeah, and I resumed on 20 hours. And, I kept on telling him all through that, don't worry. Just give me the job. Tell me what you need me to do. In that 20 hours, I would do a 40-hour job. And I wasn't just blabbing. I was ready to roll up my sleeves and do the work. Let me tell you one funny thing. When I got in, another thing I should mention, I think in the UK, job titles don't matter. I think. When I was going to apply for this job, I saw strategy and risk analysts. I was like, when we say analyst back in Nigeria, analyst is like, junior role, kind of. I was financial analyst like 14, 15 years ago. So seeing that analyst, but I saw the job, what I will be required to do. I said, this one cannot be analyst role. This is, more than an analyst role. So one thing I would say is, don't get fixated on the title. Don't. It would be a mistake. When I got in and I started seeing my work and all that, I thought, thank God I didn't even think about it. And I think it also came from me saying, you know what? I'm not even scared of starting again. I know the value that I carry and I know the value that I can give. So I'm not even worried about, whatever the title is or whatever the job is, so long as the money is good, the job is good, and I can offer value. I joined August 30th. By October, I already presented to the directorates, we call them SMT. I presented on risk. When I got in, I don't know how it happened. My boss just told me they wanted me to lead. Was it even before then? It was before then. Strategy and risk analyst was the title. So they said, so I was doing risk and I was doing strategy. And my grand boss, that's my boss's boss, said he's the one handling the risk himself. He wants to drop everything risk for me to do. And I said, I'm happy to do it, that I will be in charge of risk. And I said, I'm happy to do it. He used to make, my grand boss is also part of the SMT. So he used to brief them on the status of risk for the company. So to cut the long story short, he made the presentation, the first in September, and he said in October, I will make the presentation. And I presented. And then afterwards, they made me the risk lead, which is amazing. Anyways, what I wanted to point out is I didn't understand the impact of this until I was speaking with a couple of people and I told them, that I would be presenting at SMT the risk update. And they were like, really? You'll be presenting? That's fantastic. How did you? And I'm like, so it's big deal. I said, God, thank you. I had nerves. I was very nervous when I was going to make the presentation. You can imagine, I was speaking with the top shots of the directorate and I was sharing update on the risk. And I was very worried they would ask me questions. I was just barely 2 months. I was worried that they would ask me questions that I won't be able to answer. So I started the presentation to say, in fact, my grand boss already told them that, Debola is new and this and this and that. So, and I told them that if I am not able to answer the question, I will shoot it over to my grand boss to handle. And it went well. And since then, I've been giving that update. And my role has sort of expanded beyond what I thought. And I am always, and that's another thing I would say here, that it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what the title says. It doesn't matter. Just go in and give a lot of value. Somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn and was asking me for advice. He just got this job in the UK and was saying that, what do you think I really want to shine in this organization. What do you think I should do? And I told him, I said, say, give more than they expect. Give more than they expect. Give a lot of value. Nobody shies away from receiving good value. Give more. Just continue to volunteer, support, be that team player or team member that is ready to ensure that results is achieved. It's not just, being laid back. And yeah, that was how I got my job. But I should also say something. Have I seen other jobs that I feel that I can jump on? Yes. But you see, I continue to tell myself, don't lose sight of where you're going. You see, this job gives me a lot of space to breathe, to do all my extracurricular things, and I like it that way. I can go for a bigger job because I am not even worried that if I apply, I wouldn't get the job. No, I'm not even worried. It doesn't worry me. But I think I'm comfortable here because it is allowing me to do a lot of things that I want to do, which connects to my entrepreneurial journey. And I also like the fact that, which is a plus, my boss is super fantastic human being. I cannot begin to describe my boss. I cannot. Watches out for me, speaks good. Anybody is introducing me to, my boss is always saying, she has come with a lot of experience. She's super good. The way he speaks about me, I would look at myself again and say, So it's a fantastic. So I think my point, and if you listen to that Sean's video, you would also understand that sometimes it's about that balance. For example, if your husband's job is the heavyweight job, is not around all the time, or if your spouse, it may not be your husband, it could be spouse, both of you have to agree on what works for the family and what works for your personal aspirations. So I think, again, what I'm saying in a nutshell is that you can't get the job. You just need to know that how it works back in Nigeria is not how it works here. And, you cannot also self-sabotage. I hear a lot of people say, they'll come out of an interview and say, I didn't get the job, I think it's because I'm Black. It may be a thing, but I don't see that. I don't see that. I think it's, you find what you're looking for. I like saying that. I think it's focus on giving the value. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying I'm not focusing on it. I just want to tell you what value I can bring to your team and what you will be missing if you don't, bring me on board. And that's it. And if that doesn't work, I move on to the next one. So don't self-sabotage. Don't take the learnings from every interview. I know some people would say, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I did 5 interviews, 6 interviews, 30 interviews before getting one. I think God has a role to play in me getting the first job I interviewed for. I think there is a big God factor in it. And there is also, and that was what I was saying, that it took preparation, because from the day I started working, I've been preparing for this moment when I would, because all the experiences, all the learnings, it's for something. It's so that I get to a point where I can always command the next job and move on to the next level. Yeah, so for those that wanted to hear that story, that's it. And if there is anything else you want to know, in this real life reflection series. I am very happy to share. And don't forget to check my money series videos. Very informative. You would learn a lot from it, especially if you're in the UK. You will learn a lot from it. I think money is an important topic that we do not talk about a lot. And I'm so happy to be doing a lot of research with respect to our behavior, our actions, our relationship with money, and how we can have, money and grow money to better our lives. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you. This is